Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and today we've got another very interesting combination out here. It's a rifle that I haven't brought out in a good little while now, and it seems like a lot of you guys enjoyed seeing it, so figured hey, we'll bring it out and see what it can do. Got a couple different ammos I want to run through it that I've collected here recently to see what it's capable of. In theory, we've definitely got some high potential with this rifle, but I haven't done extensive testing with it yet to really dial in what loads it likes yet either. So we'll see if this combo today might actually be that combo. But first, we'll start off with the rifle, that being a Ruger M77 Mark II. This one is chambered in 308. It has a 22-inch barrel on it. It's obviously the stainless model, so pretty nice and shiny. Got a little bit fancier laminate stock on it. Up on top is a Nikon Buckmasters 4.5 to 14 by 40. Not anything over the top special for optics, but it does the job just fine. And for those curious as well, this gun is completely factory stock. It hasn't had a trigger job, it hasn't had the stock bedded or anything like that. This is as it came from the factory, except with a scope on it now. So nice rifle for sure, definitely got some pretty nice potential, but we'll see how it likes these particular loads. And for those loads, I brought out some of these. Some of the old Federal Premium Vital-Shok loads, but these ones are a 308 150 grain Nosler Ballistic tip, moving at apparently 2820 from the muzzle. I don't know that we'll see that with our 22-inch barrel, but we'll see how close we get. I don't think Federal loads the Nosler Ballistic tip anymore. I think that has since been replaced when they got rid of the Vital-Shok lineup. I still think they do load a couple different Nosler bullets, like the Partition potentially, but this loading, I don't think they make it in particular anymore, but in theory, it's a Nosler bullet, and if Federal loaded them consistently, they should be a pretty good performer. My Remington 750 Woodsmaster 308 was not a big fan of these. That gun can be pretty picky, so we'll see if the Ruger actually likes them today or not. And here's what they look like as well. Very basic 308, but they have that green tip Nosler Ballistic tip bullet in there. So as for today's test, we're going to run it the same as we usually do. We're going to shoot 3 groups. The groups are going to be 3 shots each, all of which will be through the chrono as well. I will let the rifle cool down for at least 5 or 6 minutes, if not more, between each of the groups, depending on how warm the barrel feels. We have no wind out here to contend with today. It's about 38 degrees this morning, so conditions should be pretty decent overall to be able to consistently shoot pretty good 100-yard groups. So let's get you guys a view of that 100-yard target. I'll start shooting, and we'll see what we can get from the M77 with these Federal Nosler Ballistic tips. Alright, so we'll look through our chronograph numbers real quick before we look at our target. The boss claim was 2820. However, we did not see that. We do have a 22-inch barrel, so that does make sense as to why we were a little bit below their boss claim. They probably ran these through at least a 24, if not a 26, or sometimes even longer. But we had a high of 2766, a low of 2733. That gave us an average of 2748 with an extreme spread of 33 and a standard deviation of 11. So they were pretty consistent with velocities as well. But at an average of 2748, here's your muzzle energy for 150 grainer from a 308 at that kind of speed. Obviously, that is perfectly fine. I wouldn't hesitate to deer hunt with that or anything like that. It's gonna do the job for sure. But let's swing around and look at our target, because we definitely saw some pretty interesting results over there as well. All right, so here's our target, and I am definitely liking what I'm seeing here. We'll talk about that top group here in a second, because I've got some theories on that, as well as the bottom group as to why it's 5 shots instead of 3. But right off the bat, with our first group being these 3 shots here, completely cold bore, that is looking pretty nice. I mean, that's 3 of them that are almost touching each other at 100 yards. I'll take that any day of the week. And it gave us a 0.9 inch spread out there at 100. So definitely sub MOA there with our first 3 shots for sure. But moving up to our second group up here, we had these 3. Clearly way more open than our first 3, that's for sure. And like I mentioned earlier, I did indeed let the rifle cool down between each of our groups. Between group 1 and group 2, I let it sit for 5 or 6 minutes. I never felt any kind of barrel heat just by grabbing the barrel. I never saw any mirage or anything like that. So I figured 5 or 6 minutes was probably pretty decent considering how cold it is out here today. That barrel was going to cool down pretty quick. So we took those 3 shots. At the end of those 3, the barrel was very slightly warm to the touch. So is it that particular about any sort of barrel heat going from group 1 to group 2? That's definitely a possibility, I would imagine, because clearly we opened it way up, and I felt good about all but one of my trigger pulls, which we'll talk about here in a second with our third group. But that second group opened up to 1.98, so just shy of 2 inches across from our farthest 2 points. That isn't completely terrible. Obviously, that would be minute of deer if you wanted to hunt with that combo, but big change between group 1 and group 2. So after seeing that, I figured, well, maybe this rifle is very sensitive to any sort of little bit of barrel heat it has in it. So I gave it about 10 or 12 minutes to cool down before I took group number 3, and I think we pretty much figured it out on that one. I think that rifle is very particular with barrel heat, because our first shot was right down here along the edge, and then our second shot was way over here. Now this one was absolutely on me. I did not feel great about that trigger pull, and it is the only bullet hole here that favored to the left out of all of our groups. So taking our third shot, we put it right back over here. So I figured we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Since I know that I pulled that one, I'll give it one more shot, and we hit this bullet hole right up here. So those 3 shots right there, right at the tip of my pointer, is pretty similar in size overall to our first group, and I had one more of those bullets left in that box. I figured, well, I've got one more. I'm not putting it back in the ammo cabinet. I might as well just finish it now. And we hit that guy right over here as well. So maybe a touch more of an open spread for these 4 shots than what we started with up here with those 3. But still, after letting it cool down for at least 10 minutes this time instead of 5 with that first group, we shrunk our group right back down to about an inch or so, I would imagine. So I'm not even going to bother measuring this guy over here, because I know that was me pulling that shot really badly. So we'll see what these 4 gave us. And we are right back down to 1.34. That 4th shot did open our group up just a little bit. It is pretty much right at 1 inch, 1.08 if we don't include that last shot. So overall, with a cold barrel, or relatively cooled down anyway, I'd call it right about an inch on average. We saw just a little bit under and just a little bit over, but if you get too much heat in that gun, it definitely opens it up quite a bit. So overall, I would say that gun is a fan of these loads. 150 grainers are sometimes a little bit lighter than what Rugers typically like, based on what I've heard from other people. Usually 180 is what those guns seem to tend to prefer, but I would say it did perfectly fine here. And for being completely stock, it doesn't have any kind of bedding job done underneath the barrel or the forend or anything like that. Clearly it's capable of some pretty nice looking accuracy. And who knows, maybe we can find another load that does a little bit better than that. But I think it's safe to say we can call it an MOA combination as long as you do your part on the trigger and don't get too much heat in the barrel. So I'm liking what I'm seeing overall here today. Can't really complain too much about that. That would absolutely do the job. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about those results right there? Coming into it, with previously testing those loadings through my other 308 and my Remington 750, that rifle did not like those. So there was a possibility that they just weren't overly impressive themselves coming into it, but seems like that M77 tends to like them. Now, obviously, they don't make those particular loadings anymore, so maybe if I find some of the more modern Federal loadings with the Nosler bullet in them, maybe the partition, I think is what they load now, that might be a pretty safe bet that that gun is probably going to do okay with them. Either way, it Seems like we've got some pretty good accuracy potential in that gun just the way it is. Not anything over the top fancy for scope. It's completely bone stock otherwise. It's never been touched or taken apart or anything. I'd say it did pretty well, and maybe we can even find a factory load that does even better than that. Going to a little different bullet weight or something. It's definitely a possibility, I'm saying. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Do you have an M77? And have you tested any of these old Federal Vital-Shoks through it? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is that a combo you would hunt with? Or would you still prefer to see tighter groups than that out of it? And maybe what other loadings do you want to see me try and find and test through that Ruger? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.